And we return to the talk shop. That Brent Bien, one of us, introduces us to this morning's guest. The talk shop live from Studio 255 in the Laramie Plains Civic Center. This program brought to you in part by a multitude of supporters. The Benton Rusty, 308 South 2nd Street. Perkins Restaurant and Bakery of Laramie. The Hilton Garden Inn. And Chano's Village, 513 Boswell Drive in Laramie. We are glad to have a candidate for Wyoming Governor, Brent Bien, in the 2026 cycle. Sir, welcome to the program.
Eric, it's good to be with you again. It really is.
The Candidate Awareness Tour 2026 is an endeavor I started about 8 years ago, and in the whole effort to make voters go to the polls aware. Better informed voter is the best voter.
That's right.
By the talk shop's estimation, and that is my perspective. Great to have you in studio. Glad you made the slick roads and traveling from point A to point B. Cheyenne, with the 2026 legislative session underway Monday, did you make it in? Did you make it in safely from that, or did you have a little wiggle in the travel from point A to point B?
Well, I came over this morning, and it was a little icy on the summit, but other than that, thankfully made it. I did have to pull over and put my hubs in there just in case. So,
a really powerful song that we led in, and it's titled "One of Us." Yeah. Well, as one of us in Wyoming, please share with everybody. I know that you were a University of Wyoming graduate in 1991, a civil engineering school, and I know that you have a military career of 28 years, retired service?
Retired colonel, yes, in the Marine Corps.
Retired colonel,
right.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that you bring. And any other background that you like people to know? I think people want to know, where's the lady that makes this all possible for you?
Well, she's up in Cody right now. I was doing a sign run. We got an order of signs in, the 4x8, 4x4s, and then a bunch of yard signs. So I came down the other day, hitting the counties all the way down to Laramie County, and also wanted to attend as much as I could of the opening bell of the legislative session for the last couple of days. But I've been real busy with a lot of local events, just meeting a lot of folks. So I didn't attend it much, but I did get over there.
Children?
I raised 3 daughters. Yeah, I raised 3 daughters, and that's why I'm a little light on top. But I raised 3 daughters.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
So with a life that started, you're a native of Laramie, Wyoming.
That's right. Yeah, I am, and I'm so proud to be from Wyoming. I am, but my father was a Marine Corps officer also, so we moved around, some when I was little, and then he worked at Mount Bell as an executive, and then U.S. West. So we spent time in Colorado and New Mexico, and but when I got the opportunity to come back up here, of course, to go to UW, I took it. And
you mentioned you were in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
That's right.
What about the legislative session, this 20-day budget session that we're day 3 of? Yeah. What keys do you watch for with the greatest interest?
Taxes and elections. That's what I'm looking at significantly right now. We've got to floor a bill in a budget session. You need 2/3 majority to actually get it out there. So a lot of the bills that I was watching closely, that they didn't make the cut. And a lot of these were some more tax relief bills, and of course some elections bills, primarily election integrity. There's 2 ways to go, and we could talk more about elections. But
you personally, you ran for anybody who didn't know, this wasn't part of your background, but I'm gonna share it. Yeah. You ran for governor in 2022.
That's right.
And obviously you learned a lot during that campaign trail.
That's right.
And you didn't shirk people calling, and frankly, you were just announced that you were a candidate. Were you? This was not something you led so much as you started your campaign in 2022, and suffice it to say, you're just not done yet.
No, I'm not. The trigger for me was our response to COVID, the governor's response to COVID, and then of course, obviously, as you know, we're the least populated state in the nation. The wind always blows in Wyoming, and I couldn't believe that our state was essentially shut down. The people's liberties were restricted here in the state. And I took that very personal, particularly for, defending our Constitution for nearly 3 decades. And so then, of course, we had a special session later in 2020, and specifically to address COVID, to address mask mandates, shot mandates, those kind of things. And our legislature during that special session did nothing to protect the people's liberty. And to me, without our freedom, we have nothing. We just don't. So that was the trigger right there. And so after that, I said, somebody's got to do this. And again, this was not a bucket list thing for me to do. I mean, I was flying at Bighorn Airways up there at Sheridan. I wasn't flying much because I was doing a lot of renovation on my home. But and nobody would. I couldn't believe it. Now I understand some really good people, couldn't, those kind of things. But so I said, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to do it. Nobody knows me. So, and that's what ended up happening. And then, of course, my wife and I got COVID in January, February, and early March of that year of 2022. So we got kind of a late start in March. And then, but I tell you what, we hit everywhere we could go. It was just the two of us starting out, and then we kind of built a coalition as we were going. And we brought in well over 50,000 votes on that first run. And it was really, it really was a privilege to do it because there's so many incredible people in this state. But again, my whole thing revolves around our personal liberties.
Well, you didn't rest upon that 2022 year. You didn't stop there. You talk about taxes
You bet.
in the 2026 legislature being of premier interest. You created or were part of the creation of a political action committee. Tell the audience about that, if you would.
We were. I was, and the day after the primary in 2022, I got a call from a gal in Thermopolis, just an incredible friend, true patriot, and she said, "Hey, can I run a write-in campaign for you?" And I said, "Well, shoot, I don't have the money to do that, And she goes, "Don't worry about it." So they set up this incredible thing across the state for a write-in for the general election. And we broke all state records. It was amazing. But that same gal, and then, of course, Rich Weber, who's been on here before, we met in 10 Sleep in December of 2022. We put BCR voter initiatives, or Wyoming voter initiatives, together. And BCR is rocket science for Brent, Cheryl, and Rich. And so we're all very headstrong on priorities. We all believe in the same end state. So it just came down to racking and stacking these priorities. And then we decided that, okay, let's run a tax ballot initiative. And that's what we did. And we wrote that. And that was to reduce residential property tax by 50% of the assessed value of the primary residence of Wyoming residents. And
Statewide petition effort.
Statewide. And it was just amazing. So we built on the network that Cheryl had done for the write-in campaign, and we just expanded that. And of course, to do this, a lot of people think we just randomly threw it on the ballot, but that's not the case. We had to go through the LSO, we had to file it with the Secretary of State, we had multiple meetings on this to make sure everything was correct, and then we had to go out and get 100 sponsors once we got the final. And those 100 sponsors, once we got those within 30 days, then that was the trigger to do the final, not the final narrative of it, but that was the trigger to be able to go ahead and actually field this statewide. And so it was a lot of work. We ended up, but the support was unbelievable. We ended up getting about 44,000 signatures. And of those, well over 30,000 were registered Wyoming voters, and that's what we needed. We needed
So
about
out of all of that work,
yeah.
What are you most proud of given last legislative session in 2025?
We drove the narrative. We drove the doggone narrative. And in 2025, that was the number one thing was taxes. particularly residential property tax.
Property tax.
That's right. And so they ran a bill, and there's a lot of bills.
There were like 8 initiatives in the tax realm in 2025
There were.
that were on the legislative
right.
lens to be dealt with, and yours prevailed.
Now our tax ballot initiative will actually be on the 2026 general election ballot. So that's what's so great about it. But the meat of that actually ended up in several bills that we helped write or we edited and those kind of things.
Yeah, it became a real model.
It did, and the thing is I told these legislators, I'm like, I'm not in love with this thing, man. Pass it, make it permanent, and do it. And it was interesting because when they were debating one of the bills that ended up being the 25% tax cut that everybody got, that was originally a 50%, and I said, oh, don't drop it to 25. I said we already compromised. We went from 100% down to 50%, so don't drop it. But they did, and that's fine. They got 25%, and so it was good. I mean, it really did drive the narrative on taxes, and we're still driving it. Taxes and elections are our primary thing, and they are two very, very strong issues for me.
We're going to come back to taxes later in our program, but you mentioned elections.
Yeah.
I want you to expand on that as far as keys you're watching in this legislative session.
Sure. Well, where I stand on elections is I want all hand count of paper ballots to be the primary method of tabulation of our ballots. I want runoffs, and I want recall expanded all the way to the top 5. Right now, we don't have any of those, right? And
some would say for good reason. What do you say?
I think that, particularly with runoffs, every voter in this state deserves to have the most qualified candidate who gets 51% of the vote, period. And quite frankly, that's what I want, is 51% of the vote at least, running.
Leading the pack.
Absolutely. I don't want 33% or 30%. I want the whole doggone thing. I want that confidence because I want to know that this is what the folks think, because to me, it's like endorsements, right? I don't solicit any endorsements. I just don't. We can talk about that later, but I don't, because the only endorsement to me that matters are the people, period. And so I want to know, to me, having that bellwether, that metric of 51%, that's key to me. The other is recall. I think we've seen so many things. I mean, we're seeing the watershed tax here. We're seeing the Evansville mayor. We're seeing all these things around the state of at the local level of people trying to. They're disappointed with what's going on. So the only thing we really have to do that is in. It's in Article 15. It's in our statutes. It's 15.4 TAC 110, if I remember correctly. But it does give the folks the ability to recall at the municipality level. But, I want that extended all the way to the top. Now, it should be a difficult process to recall. There's no question. But it is one of those things that I think it's very difficult to hold anybody accountable in this state. And that is, doggone it, Eric, that's one of my top things, is accountability. Because people have completely lost trust in our state government, and I don't blame them. And, whether it's auditing the budget, which we haven't done in, since the full statewide budget, or elected officials that, that are still in their position, even though they've done things, for whatever reason. So, but yeah, we actually did file another ballot initiative to revert to hand count as the primary method. Now we haven't, and we've had a couple meetings with the Secretary of State on this, and the LSO, Legislative Support Office, and but we haven't gotten to the point of actually running a ballot initiative yet. We're still kind of in the work of that because we're hoping to get something legislatively done. Yeah.
We're visiting with Brent Bien, candidate for Wyoming's next governor in the 2026 election cycle. And we will be following Brent Bien throughout his visit to the Gem City of the Plains. In the 11 o'clock hour, you can find Brent at Bernie's Mexican Restaurant, 367 Snowy Range Road, in his People First trailing around the Gym City. That's 11 to 1 p.m. And then you've got to stop at Wyotech campus this afternoon, and then at the 5 o'clock bell, you'll be at the American Legion auxiliary at 417 Ivinson Avenue, the address for the American Legion. 5 to 8 p.m. Brent Bien, candidate for Wyoming's next governor, will be available in Laramie. Lots of stops, lots of questions. We have more coming up next after this.